The wind cut through Chicago like a knife that February night. Daniel Torres pulled his thin jacket tighter as he walked across the parking lot, his breath forming white clouds in the freezing air. His phone said it was -15 degrees, and honestly, it felt even colder than that. Another 12-hour shift done. His feet ached, his back hurt, and all he wanted was to get home, check on his mom, and maybe sleep for a few hours before his next job started at 6 in the morning. Daniel worked 3 jobs now: the delivery driving during the day, warehouse work some nights, and weekend shifts at a grocery store. It wasn't the life he'd imagined at 28, but life had a way of changing your plans. His mom's medical bills had piled up over the past 2 years. The medications she needed weren't fully covered by insurance, and the copays alone were crushing. But what else could he do? She'd raised him alone after his dad left, worked 2 jobs herself to put food on the table and keep a roof over their heads. Now it was his turn to take care of her. Daniel's car, a beat-up Honda with rust spots and a temperamental heater, sat at the far end of the lot. As he walked toward it, something caught his eye. There was someone sitting on the bench near the bus stop. At this hour? In this cold? That was strange. As he got closer, he could see it was an older man, maybe in his 70s. The guy was wearing what looked like an expensive wool coat, the kind you'd see in department store windows, but it wasn't nearly heavy enough for weather like this. The man was shaking, his shoulders trembling violently. Daniel's first instinct was to keep walking. He was exhausted, freezing, and honestly, he had enough problems of his own. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the way his mom raised him. Maybe it was just basic human decency. He couldn't just leave someone out here to freeze to death. "Hey, sir, you okay?" Daniel approached slowly, not wanting to startle the man. The elderly man looked up, and Daniel could see confusion in his eyes. His lips were slightly blue, and his hands were shaking as he tried to speak. My car broke down. I was trying to. I can't remember." Daniel looked around and spotted a Mercedes sedan parked awkwardly near the curb about 50 feet away. Its hazard lights were blinking weakly. "Is that your car over there?" The man nodded slowly, then looked uncertain. "I think so. I was going somewhere. I had to meet someone, but I can't." He trailed off, looking even more confused. This wasn't good. The man seemed disoriented, and in this cold, that was dangerous. Daniel had heard stories about people with hypothermia getting confused, making bad decisions. His mind raced through his options. He could call 911, but that might take time, and honestly, the man needed to get warm right now. "Okay, listen, let's get you warm first. Then we'll figure everything else out," Daniel said, making a decision. He took off his own jacket, thin as it was, and draped it over the man's shoulders. The cold immediately bit into Daniel through just his hoodie, but the older man needed it more. "Come on, my car's right over there. It's not much, but the heater works. Most of the time, anyway." Daniel helped the man to his feet. The guy was unsteady, holding on to Daniel's arm tightly. They made their way slowly to Daniel's Honda. He got the man settled in the passenger seat and cranked the heat up as high as it would go. The car made its usual rattling sounds as it warmed up, and Daniel silently prayed it wouldn't pick tonight to finally give up completely. "What's your name, sir?" Daniel asked, rubbing his own hands together to warm them up. "William," the man said after a moment. "William Hartford, I think." "Yes, that's right." "Okay, Mr. Hartford, I'm Daniel. Do you have a phone? Someone we can call?" William patted his pockets, then shook his head. "It died. I meant to charge it, but I forgot. I forget things sometimes now." There was a sadness in his voice that made Daniel's chest tighten. "That's all right. Do you remember any phone numbers? Maybe your wife or kids?" William closed his eyes, clearly trying to concentrate. "My daughter, Catherine, but I can't. The numbers aren't coming. It's all jumbled." Daniel glanced at his own phone. He had $23 in his checking account until Friday. His gas tank was running low. He needed to get home to check on his mom and make sure she'd taken her evening medications. But looking at this confused, freezing old man, he knew he couldn't just drop him off somewhere and hope for the best. The heater was finally pushing out warm air, and some color was returning to William's face. The violent shaking had slowed down at least. That was good, but the confusion in the man's eyes worried Daniel. Something wasn't right here. "Mr. Hartford, when's the last time you ate anything?" Daniel asked. William thought about it. "This morning, maybe?" "I'm not sure." Daniel made up his mind. There was a 24-hour diner about 10 minutes away. It wasn't fancy, but it was warm and they served decent food. He could get William something hot to eat and drink. Maybe use the diner's phone to try to reach someone and figure out what to do from there. Listen, I'm going to take you to get some food and warm you up properly, okay? Then we'll sort everything out. William looked at him with watery eyes. You don't have to do that. I'm just a stranger. Yeah, well, my mom always said we're supposed to help people when they need it, Daniel replied, putting the car in gear. Besides, nobody should be alone on a night like this. As they pulled out of the parking lot, Daniel did the math in his head. A couple of cups of coffee, maybe some soup and a sandwich. That would probably run him about $15 with tax and tip. That would leave him with $8 for the next 3 days. He'd make it work. He always did. What Daniel didn't know, as he drove through the frozen Chicago streets with this confused stranger beside him, was that this simple act of kindness was about to change his life in ways he couldn't possibly imagine. But right now, in this moment, he was just trying to do the right thing. Sometimes that's all it takes. The diner's fluorescent lights felt almost blinding after the darkness outside. Daniel held the door open as William shuffled in, still wrapped in Daniel's jacket. The warmth hit them immediately, along with the smell of coffee and bacon grease that seemed permanently baked into every surface. A tired-looking waitress with her hair pulled back in a ponytail glanced up from behind the counter. Sit anywhere, hon. Be right with you. Daniel guided William to a booth near the back, away from the drafty door. The older man slid into the seat slowly, his movement stiff from the cold. Now that they were in the bright light, Daniel could see William more clearly. His clothes were expensive-looking, not just the coat. The watch on his wrist probably cost more than Daniel made in 6 months, but there was something vulnerable about him too, something lost. The waitress came over with 2 plastic menus and filled their coffee cups without asking. Rough night to be out, she commented, her eyes flicking between them with obvious curiosity. You could say that, Daniel replied, wrapping his cold hands around the warm coffee mug. Can we get 2 bowls of your chicken noodle soup? And maybe some toast? Sure thing, sweetie. Be up in a few minutes. William hadn't touched his menu. He was staring at his coffee cup like he was trying to solve a puzzle. I was supposed to be somewhere, he said quietly. There was a dinner, business dinner. But then my car made a strange noise and I pulled over and He trailed off, his brow furrowed in concentration. Daniel's phone buzzed in his pocket. His mom. He quickly read the text. Where are you? I'm okay, just checking. He typed back. Had something come up. Be home soon. Did you take your meds? Yes, at 8 like always. Drive safe, mijo. Daniel felt a pang of guilt. He should be home right now. His mom worried when he was late, even though she tried not to show it. But what was he supposed to do? Leave this confused old man to fend for himself? Do you know where this dinner was? Daniel asked, putting his phone away. Maybe we can call the restaurant, see if anyone's looking for you. William's hands trembled slightly as he lifted his coffee cup. The Union Club, I think. Or was it the Metropolitan Club? There are so many. He took a sip and winced, even though the coffee wasn't that hot anymore. I'm sorry. I know I'm being difficult. My memory isn't what it used to be. My doctor says it's the early stages of something. I can't remember what it's called either. Isn't that ironic? The way he said it, with a sad little laugh, broke Daniel's heart a little. He thought about his own mom, the way she sometimes repeated herself or forgot where she put her keys. Getting old was hard enough without your mind starting to slip away. You're not being difficult, Daniel said firmly. We all need help sometimes. The soup arrived, steaming and fragrant. William stared at it for a moment, then picked up his spoon. His hands were steadier now, Daniel noticed. The warmth was helping. They ate in silence for a while. Daniel tried to think through the situation logically. The man's phone was dead. He couldn't remember phone numbers clearly. His car had broken down. The smart thing to do would probably be to take him to a hospital. They could check him out, make sure he was okay, and they'd have resources to track down his family. But that would mean bills, paperwork, maybe hours of waiting. William seemed hesitant about that idea when Daniel suggested it. I hate hospitals, William said, shaking his head. Too many bad memories there. My wife, she passed away in a hospital 3 years ago. Cancer. Every time I smell that antiseptic smell, I'm back there watching her. He didn't finish the sentence. I understand, Daniel said. And he did. His mom had been in and out of hospitals enough in the past 2 years. He knew that particular kind of dread. But Mr. Hartford, you need help. You were out in the freezing cold, confused. What if something's seriously wrong? It's just the usual, William insisted. I get confused sometimes, especially when I'm tired or stressed. My daughter knows. She worries too much already. I probably just need a good night's sleep. Daniel glanced at the clock on the wall. It was past midnight now. He had to be at the warehouse at 6. That left him maybe 4 hours to sleep if he left right now. But William still didn't have a way home, still couldn't remember his daughter's number, and his car was broken down in a parking lot somewhere. The waitress came back to refill their coffee. You boys need anything else? Actually, Daniel said, struck by an idea. Would it be okay if we used your phone? His died and we need to make a call. Sure, hun. It's right there by the register. Local calls only, though. Daniel turned to William. Is there any chance your daughter's number is listed? What's her last name? Hartford. Catherine Hartford. She lives in Lake Forest, I think. Or maybe it's Winnetka, one of those North Shore towns. They all sound the same to me. William rubbed his forehead, clearly frustrated with himself. Daniel went to the counter and picked up the old cordless phone. The waitress pushed a battered phone book toward him. He flipped through the pages looking for Hartford. There were several listings, but none for a Catherine in the suburbs William mentioned. He tried information, but they couldn't give out numbers without more specific details. Daniel hung up, feeling stuck. He looked back at the booth where William sat, looking small and tired and confused. The old man was methodically tearing his napkin into tiny pieces, probably not even aware he was doing it. Daniel made a decision he knew was probably foolish. The kind of decision his mom would say came from his heart, not his head. He walked back to the booth and sat down. Okay, here's what we're going to do, Daniel said. I'm taking you to the hospital, not because I think you're dying or anything dramatic like that, but because they can check you out, make sure the cold didn't do any damage, and they'll have ways to track down your daughter that I don't have. Professional ways. William looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Daniel's tone must have convinced him. He nodded slowly. You're probably right. I don't like it, but you're right. Daniel pulled out his wallet and counted out $15, leaving it on the table with a decent tip. $8 left. He'd make it work. He'd skip lunch for a couple days, water down his coffee, find a way. As they stood to leave, William reached out and gripped Daniel's arm. You've been very kind to me. I want you to know I appreciate it. You're a good person. Just doing what anyone would do. Daniel replied, though he knew that wasn't really true. Plenty of people would have walked right past William on that bench, would have convinced themselves it wasn't their problem. They drove to Northwestern Memorial, the big hospital downtown. Daniel's car rattled and coughed the whole way, and he sent up silent prayers that it wouldn't die. The parking situation was a nightmare, and he ended up in a paid lot that would cost him $5. $3 left now. Inside, the emergency room was surprisingly quiet for a Friday night. A few people sat in the waiting area, looking miserable with various ailments. Daniel helped William up to the registration desk, where a woman with kind eyes and tired smile greeted them. What brings you in tonight? Daniel explained the situation as clearly as he could. Found him in the cold, disoriented, couldn't remember his family's contact information. The woman's expression shifted to professional concern. She started asking William questions, typing information into her computer. As she worked, William suddenly turned to Daniel with clear eyes. You should go. You've done enough. You look exhausted, and I'm sure you have your own life to get back to. I'll wait until your daughter gets here, Daniel said. Make sure you're okay. Young man, I insist. You've already sacrificed enough of your time and money for a stranger. Go home. I'll be fine from here. But Daniel had already decided he was seeing this through. He found an uncomfortable plastic chair in the waiting area and settled in. He'd come this far. He could wait a little longer. Daniel must have dozed off in that uncomfortable plastic chair because the next thing he knew, someone was calling William's name. He jerked awake, his neck stiff and his back aching. The clock on the wall said it was almost 1:30 in the morning. William was being led back into the examination area by a nurse. The old man caught Daniel's eye and gave him a small wave before disappearing through the double doors. Daniel rubbed his face and checked his phone. A couple more texts from his mom asking if he was okay. He sent back a quick message telling her he was fine, just running late and that he'd explain everything in the morning. The waiting room had filled up a bit more. A woman with a crying baby, A teenager holding his arm at an odd angle, an elderly couple speaking quietly in Spanish. Everyone looked tired and worried. Daniel knew he should probably go home. William was in good hands now. The hospital would figure out how to contact his family. There was nothing more Daniel could do here, but something kept him in that chair. Maybe it was the look in William's eyes earlier that lost confusion. Maybe it was the fact that he'd come this far already, or maybe he just needed to know the old man would be okay. He waited another 20 minutes, fighting to keep his eyes open, when suddenly the atmosphere in the waiting room changed. The automatic doors swished open, and a woman strode in like she owned the place. She was probably in her late 40s, dressed in clothes that screamed money. Designer bag, expensive coat, and an expression of barely controlled panic on her face. 2 men in suits followed her. Security, Daniel guessed. Though they were trying to be subtle about it, the woman went straight to the registration desk. "My father is here, William Hartford. I got a call that he was brought in." "Where is he?" The registration clerk's demeanor changed instantly. "Yes, Ms. Hartford. Let me get someone for you right away." She picked up a phone and spoke quickly into it. Daniel sat up straighter. So this was Catherine, William's daughter. He watched as she paced near the desk, one hand pressed to her forehead. She looked exhausted and scared and relieved all at once. A doctor came through the double doors within minutes. "Ms. Hartford? Your father is doing well. We've warmed him up, run some basic tests. He was mildly hypothermic when he arrived, but he's stable now. His blood sugar was a bit low, which probably contributed to the confusion, but we've addressed that. He's much more lucid now." "Thank God," Catherine breathed out. "Can I see him?" "Of course. He's been asking for you. But first there's someone you should meet." The doctor turned and looked around the waiting room, his eyes landing on Daniel. "You're the young man who brought Mr. Hartford in." Daniel stood up, suddenly self-conscious about his rumpled clothes and the fact that he probably looked half homeless. "Yeah, that's me. Daniel Torres." Catherine Hartford turned to face him, and Daniel saw tears shining in her eyes. She crossed the waiting room quickly and, to his complete surprise, grabbed both his hands in hers. "You found my father?" Her voice shook slightly. Yeah. He was sitting on a bench outside my work. It was freezing and he seemed confused, so I couldn't just leave him there." Catherine's professional composure cracked. A tear rolled down her cheek. "We've been looking for him for 3 hours. He left the Union Club where we were having a business dinner. Said he was going to the restroom, but he never came back. We called the police. We had people searching everywhere. I was so scared." "I'm just glad he's okay," Daniel said, feeling awkward. "He's a nice guy. We had some soup, and I figured the hospital would be able to help him better than I could." One of the security guys had been on his phone. He stepped forward and spoke quietly to Catherine. "Ma'am, we found his car. It's in a parking lot about 3 miles from the club. Engine trouble, looks like the alternator gave out. That's probably why his phone died too, couldn't charge it in the car." Catherine nodded, then turned her full attention back to Daniel. "Tell me everything. How did you find him? What happened?" So Daniel told her the whole story. Finding William on the bench, taking him to the diner, trying to figure out how to contact someone, finally deciding to bring him to the hospital. As he talked, Catherine's expression shifted from gratitude to something else. Amazement, maybe. Or disbelief. When he finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "And you did all this because—" Daniel shrugged. "Because he needed help. I couldn't just walk away." "But you spent your own money? Took him in your car? Waited here for hours?" She seemed genuinely puzzled, like this didn't make sense to her. "Well, yeah. What else was I supposed to do?" Catherine looked at him like he was speaking a foreign language. "Most people would have called 911 and kept walking. You went far beyond that." "I don't know about most people," Daniel said, feeling uncomfortable with the praise. "But I was raised to help when someone needs it. My mom would kill me if she found out I'd left an old man freezing on a bench." "Your mother raised you well," Catherine said softly. She reached into her bag and pulled out a business card and a pen. "I want your contact information. Phone number, address, everything. And I want to know what the hospital charges you for parking tonight. I'm reimbursing you for everything." "That's not necessary," Daniel protested. "Really, I didn't do it for money." "I know you didn't. That's exactly why I want to do this, please." Her tone left no room for argument. Reluctantly, Daniel wrote down his information. Catherine tucked the card carefully into her wallet like it was precious. "Can I see him now?" she asked the doctor. "Of course." Follow me. Catherine turned back to Daniel. Come with us. My father will want to thank you properly. Oh, I don't want to intrude on a family moment, Daniel said quickly. You're not intruding, please. So Daniel found himself following them through the double doors, into the maze of the emergency room. They stopped at a small room where William sat propped up in a bed, wearing a hospital gown and looking much more alert than he had earlier. Dad. Catherine rushed to his side, hugging him carefully. Catherine, sweetheart, I'm fine. Stop fussing. But William hugged her back, and Daniel could see the relief in both their faces. Then William saw Daniel standing awkwardly in the doorway. His whole face lit up. There's my rescuer. Did you meet my daughter? Catherine, this young man saved my life tonight. I met him. And Dad, it sounds like you scared 10 years off both our lives. I'm sorry, honey. I didn't mean to worry you. I just got confused. The car died, and I couldn't think straight, and everything was so cold. William reached out a hand toward Daniel. Come here, son. Daniel approached the bed. William gripped his hand with surprising strength. The nurses told me what you did. Taking me to dinner, bringing me here, waiting to make sure I was okay. You didn't have to do any of that. I wasn't going to leave you out there to freeze, Daniel said simply. Most people would have, William replied, echoing his daughter's words. Most people would have convinced themselves it wasn't their problem. But you didn't. You saw someone who needed help and you helped. No questions asked. No hesitation. My mom always says we're all just people trying to get through life. When someone needs help, you help them. Your mother sounds like a wise woman, William said. She is. Catherine was watching this exchange with an odd expression on her face. She pulled out her phone. Daniel, I'm arranging a car service to take you home. It's the least we can do. Where do you live? Really, that's not necessary. My car's in the parking lot. It's almost 2 a.m. You look exhausted. Let us do this one thing, please. Daniel was too tired to argue anymore. He gave her his address. As he turned to leave, William called out, Daniel, thank you for seeing me as a person, not just a problem. That means more than you know. Daniel nodded, feeling emotion tighten his throat. Take care of yourself, Mr. Hartford, and listen to your daughter. She seems like she knows what she's doing. Catherine walked him out to the waiting room. A sleek black town car was already pulling up outside. Daniel wondered how she'd arranged that so fast, but then again, people with money could make things happen quickly. Daniel, Catherine said as he headed for the door, I meant what I said. I'm going to call you. Don't be surprised. Okay, Daniel said, though he figured she was just being polite. Rich people probably said stuff like that all the time and never followed through. The driver held open the door for him. Daniel slid into the leather seats, feeling completely out of place. As the car pulled away from the hospital, taking him home through the quiet Chicago streets, he thought about the strange night he'd had. All he'd done was help someone who needed it. Just basic human decency, nothing special. He had no idea that his life was about to change in ways he couldn't possibly imagine. 2 days passed, and Daniel almost convinced himself the whole thing had been some kind of weird dream. He went back to his regular routine, delivery driving during the day, a few hours of sleep, then the warehouse shift at night. His mom asked about why he'd come home so late that Friday, and he told her the whole story. She'd cried a little, told him she was proud of him, and made him promise to be careful. You have a good heart, mijo, she'd said, touching his cheek the way she used to when he was little. But the world isn't always kind to people with good hearts. You need to take care of yourself, too. On Monday afternoon, Daniel was in the middle of his delivery route when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, figuring it was spam, but something made him pick up. Hello? Daniel Torres? It was a woman's voice, professional and crisp. Yeah, that's me. This is Catherine Hartford. We met on Friday night at the hospital. I was wondering if you might have time to meet with me. Perhaps tomorrow afternoon? Daniel nearly dropped his phone. He'd figured she'd been just being polite at the hospital, saying she'd call. Rich people didn't actually follow through on things like that, did they? Sure, I guess. What's this about? I'd prefer to discuss it in person. Would 2 o'clock work for you? I can text you the address. Daniel mentally ran through his schedule. He had deliveries until noon. Then the warehouse shift didn't start until 6. Yeah, 2 works. Wonderful. I'll send you the details. And Daniel, thank you for taking my call. After she hung up, Daniel stared at his phone like it might explode. What could she possibly want? Maybe she wanted to pay him back for the soup in the parking. That would be nice, actually. He could use the money. The next day, Daniel drove to the address Catherine had sent. It was in downtown Chicago, a sleek glass building that probably had more money in its lobby than Daniel had seen in his entire life. He felt incredibly out of place as he walked through the revolving doors. The security guard at the desk looked him over. "Can I help you?" "I'm here to see Catherine Hartford." "She's expecting me." "Daniel Torres." The guard checked his computer, then handed Daniel a visitor badge. 35th floor. Elevators are to your right. The elevator was nicer than Daniel's entire apartment. Smooth jazz played softly as it whisked him upward. When the doors opened, he stepped into a reception area that looked like something from a magazine. Everything was white marble and dark wood and modern art that probably cost more than his car. A receptionist smiled at him. "Mr. Torres? Ms. Hartford is ready for you. Right this way." She led him down a hallway lined with windows overlooking the city. They stopped at a large office with Catherine's name on the door. The receptionist knocked once and opened it. Catherine stood up from behind a massive desk. She was dressed in a sharp business suit, her hair pulled back, looking every bit the powerful executive. But her smile was warm. "Daniel, thank you so much for coming. Please, sit down. Can I get you anything? Coffee, water?" "I'm good, thanks." Daniel sat in one of the leather chairs facing her desk, trying not to feel intimidated. Catherine sat down across from him, and for a moment, she just looked at him. It wasn't uncomfortable exactly, but Daniel felt like he was being evaluated somehow. "I'm going to be direct with you," she finally said, "because I think you're the kind of person who appreciates honesty. My father hasn't stopped talking about you since Friday night. Despite his memory issues, he remembers everything about what you did for him, the way you helped him without any hesitation, without knowing who he was, expecting nothing in return. He seemed like he needed help." Daniel said simply, "Let me tell you something about my father. William Hartford III. Maybe you've heard of him?" Daniel shook his head. "Should I have?" Catherine smiled. "Most people in business would know the name. My father founded Hartford Industries 40 years ago, started with a small manufacturing company and built it into a multinational corporation. We have offices in 30 countries. Annual revenue last year was just over $4 billion. Daniel felt his mouth go dry. "Billion? With a B?" "With a B. My father retired 5 years ago, but he's still chairman of the board. We're a privately held company, which means our family owns it. My father's personal net worth is," she paused, "substantial. Forbes estimated it at around $4.7 billion last year, though they always get the numbers wrong." Daniel couldn't process this. The confused old man he'd bought soup for was worth billions? "I had no idea." "Of course you didn't, that's exactly the point. You helped him because he needed help, not because of who he is or what he's worth. You spent your last money making sure a stranger was okay. Do you know how rare that is?" Daniel shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," Catherine said firmly. "You didn't. Most people would have called 911 and kept walking. Some people would have taken advantage, maybe gone through his pockets or stolen his watch. Very few people would have sacrificed their own money, their time, their sleep to make sure he was okay. And that matters to us." "Okay," Daniel said slowly, not sure where this was going. Catherine pulled out a folder from her desk. "My father and I have discussed this at length. We want to do something for you, to thank you properly. You really don't have to. I didn't do it for a reward. I know you didn't. That's exactly why we want to do this. Daniel, I've had you investigated. I hope you don't mind." Daniel's stomach dropped. "Investigated? Standard background check. I needed to understand your situation. I know about your mother's illness, the medical bills you're struggling with, the 3 jobs you work trying to keep your heads above water, the fact that you dropped out of college 3 years ago because you couldn't afford it while paying for her care." Daniel felt exposed, vulnerable. All his private struggles laid out for this woman to see. "I don't need charity." "This isn't charity," Catherine said quietly. "This is gratitude. And it's also an investment in the kind of person we believe deserves opportunities. So here's what we're proposing. First, we want to establish a medical fund for your mother. Full coverage for all her treatments, medications, everything she needs. No copays, no deductibles, no insurance headaches." Daniel's heart started pounding. That's too much. I can't accept that. You can and you will. Let me finish. Second, we want to offer you a full scholarship to any educational program you choose. College, trade school, specialized training. Whatever you want to pursue. We'll cover tuition, books, living expenses, everything. Daniel couldn't speak. This wasn't real. Things like this didn't happen to people like him. Catherine wasn't done. Third, we'd like to offer you a position at Hartford Industries. We have a management training program that could be perfect for you. You'd start in our logistics division, since you have delivery experience. The program runs for 18 months, and if you complete it successfully, you'd move into a management role. Starting salary would be $75,000 annually with full benefits. $75,000? Daniel's voice came out as barely a whisper. He currently made about $32,000 a year working 3 jobs. With performance bonuses, it could be closer to 90. And Daniel, this isn't a handout. From what I've learned about you, you're smart, hardworking, and you have natural problem-solving skills. Those are exactly the qualities we look for. We believe you'd be an asset to our company. Daniel's hands were shaking. This was too much. It was overwhelming. Part of him wanted to say yes immediately, to grab this incredible opportunity with both hands. But another part of him, the part that had learned not to trust things that seemed too good to be true, was cautious. Why? He asked. Why would you do all this? Catherine leaned forward. Because my father built his company on a simple principle. Invest in good people. He used to say that skills can be taught, but character can't. You showed your character on Friday night. You saw someone vulnerable and you helped them, even though it cost you. That's the kind of person we want in our organization. What if I'm not good enough? What if I fail? Then you fail. Everyone fails sometimes, but I don't think you will. Your work history shows someone who's reliable, dedicated, and willing to do whatever it takes. Those qualities matter more than anything else. Daniel looked down at his hands, rough and calloused from manual labor. Could he really do this? Could someone like him work in a place like this? There's no catch? He asked quietly. No catch. You'd be expected to work hard, meet your responsibilities just like any other employee. You'd earn your place through your performance, not through charity. We're giving you an opportunity, Daniel. What you do with it is up to you. Daniel thought about his mom struggling with her medications, always worried about the bills. He thought about his own abandoned dreams of finishing college, of maybe having a career instead of just jobs. He thought about the constant stress of wondering if they'd make rent next month. And he thought about William Hartford, confused and freezing on that bench. About how helping him had felt like the most natural thing in the world. Can I think about it? Daniel asked. Of course. Take all the time you need. Though I hope you won't take too long. The medical fund for your mother, that goes into effect immediately. Regardless of your decision about the job. My father was very clear about that. He wants her to have the care she needs. Tears stung Daniel's eyes. Even if I say no to everything else? Even then, your mother shouldn't suffer because of financial stress. She raised a good man. That deserves to be recognized. Daniel couldn't hold it back anymore. He put his face in his hands and cried. All the stress, all the fear, all the exhaustion of the past 2 years came pouring out. And underneath it all was hope, fragile and terrifying that maybe things could actually get better. Catherine came around the desk and put a gentle hand on his shoulder. She didn't say anything, just let him cry. When he finally got himself under control, she handed him a box of tissues. I'm sorry, Daniel said, wiping his eyes. This is just a lot, I know. Take your time. Think it over. Talk to your mother. Here's my card with my direct number. Call me when you're ready. As Daniel stood to leave, Catherine walked him to the door. Daniel, one more thing. My father wants to meet with you again. When he's feeling better and thinking clearly, he wants to thank you properly. Would that be okay? Yeah, Daniel managed. Yeah, I'd like that. Daniel sat in his car in the parking garage for 20 minutes after leaving Catherine's office, just trying to process everything. His phone buzzed with a text from his supervisor at the warehouse asking if he was coming in for his shift. Daniel stared at the message for a long moment before typing back that he'd be there. He needed to think. He needed to talk to his mom. But most of all, he needed to make sure this was real before he let himself believe in it. That evening, after his warehouse shift, Daniel came home to find his mom still awake, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea. She took one look at his face and knew something had happened. Sit down, mijo. Tell me. So Daniel told her everything. About the phone call, the meeting, the medical fund, the scholarship, the job offer. His mom listened without interrupting, her hands wrapped around her teacup, her eyes getting wider and wider. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then she reached across the table and took his hand. "This is because of Friday night," she said. "Because you helped that man." "Yeah. And you're worried it's too good to be true." Daniel nodded. "Things like this don't happen to people like us, Mom. There has to be something wrong with it. Some catch I'm not seeing." His mother squeezed his hand. "Or maybe, just maybe, good things can happen to good people. You did the right thing. Not because you expected anything in return, but because that's who you are. That's how I raised you, and now you're being rewarded for it. But what if I fail? What if I'm not smart enough for that world? Then you'll learn and try again. Daniel, you dropped out of college to take care of me. You work 3 jobs and never complain. You're one of the smartest, hardest working people I know. Don't let fear stop you from taking this chance. And the medical fund? That feels like too much." His mother's eyes filled with tears. "That feels like an answer to prayers I've been saying every night for 2 years. Let them help us, Daniel. Let them help you. You deserve this." Daniel spent the next 3 days thinking, researching Hartford Industries and trying to find the catch. But everything he found confirmed what Catherine had told him. The company had a reputation for ethical business practices and taking care of their employees. Their management training program had launched dozens of successful careers. On Thursday afternoon, Daniel called Catherine's direct line. She answered on the second ring. "Daniel, have you made a decision?" "I want to accept," he said, "all of it. But I have one condition." "What's that?" "I don't want special treatment. When I start working there, I want to earn my place like anyone else. No one needs to know about how we met or why I was hired. I want to succeed or fail on my own merit." Catherine was quiet for a moment. "That can be arranged. Though I should warn you, my father is going to be difficult to keep quiet. He's very proud of this whole thing. I can live with that." "Then welcome to Hartford Industries, Daniel. When can you start?" The next few weeks passed in a blur. The medical fund kicked in immediately, and Daniel's mom started seeing a specialist who put her on a new treatment plan. Within days, she had more energy than she'd had in months. The relief on her face alone was worth everything. Daniel gave notice at all 3 of his jobs. His supervisors were sorry to see him go, but happy for his opportunity. He enrolled in night business classes at Northwestern, fully covered by the scholarship. And on a Monday morning in March, he put on a new suit, his first ever, and walked into Hartford Industries as an employee. The management training program was intense. Daniel worked in the logistics division, learning everything from supply chain management to operations oversight. He worked harder than he'd ever worked in his life, determined to prove he deserved this chance. His supervisors were tough but fair, and to Daniel's relief, they seemed to have no idea about his connection to the Hartford family. About a month into his new job, Catherine called him into her office. "My father wants to see you. Are you free this Saturday?" That weekend, Daniel drove out to Lake Forest to an estate that made Catherine's office building look modest. An actual mansion with grounds and gates and a security checkpoint. William Hartford met him at the door himself, looking healthier and happier than he had that freezing night in February. "Daniel, come in, come in. Let me show you around." They walked through the incredible house, William pointing out artwork and telling stories. But eventually they ended up in his study, a comfortable room lined with books and photos. William poured them both coffee and settled into a leather armchair. "Catherine tells me you're doing well at the company. Your supervisors have nothing but good things to say." "I'm trying my best," Daniel said. "You know, I founded Hartford Industries 41 years ago with a simple idea, that business should create opportunities for people to build better lives. Not just for the owners, but for everyone involved. Employees, customers, communities. I believe that if you invest in good people and treat them fairly, everyone wins." William took a sip of his coffee, his eyes distant with memory. "But somewhere along the way, when the company got bigger and more successful, I lost sight of that sometimes. Started thinking about market share and quarterly reports more than people. My wife used to remind me why I'd started the company in the first place. After she died, I felt lost." He looked directly at Daniel. "Then I met you. Sitting on that bench, confused and cold, I was just a scared old man. And you saw that. Not my money, not my reputation, just a human being who needed help. You reminded me of something I'd forgotten." "What's that?" Daniel asked quietly. "That most of what matters in life is how we treat each other when no one's watching, when there's nothing in it for us. You could have walked away that night. You had every reason to. You were tired, broke, worried about your own mother. But you didn't. And that told me everything I needed to know about who you are. William leaned forward. I'm an old man, Daniel. My memory isn't what it used to be. Some days are better than others, but I remember that night clearly. I remember thinking, as you helped me into your car, that here was someone who still understood what really mattered. And I wanted to do something meaningful with that. You've already done more than I could ever repay, Daniel said. You don't owe me anything. But I want to ask you something. As you move forward in your career, as you succeed, and I believe you will, remember why you helped me that night. Remember that kindness matters, that seeing people as people matters. Promise me you'll carry that forward? I promise, Daniel said, and he meant it. Over the next year, Daniel threw himself into his work. He completed the management training program with high marks and was promoted to operations manager in the logistics division. His mom's health continued to improve with proper treatment. He finished his business degree at Northwestern, attending classes at night and on weekends. But something else happened too. Daniel couldn't forget what William had said about creating opportunities for others. He started noticing the warehouse workers, the delivery drivers, the people doing the hard physical jobs he used to do. He listened to their concerns, advocated for better working conditions, pushed for education benefits similar to what he'd received. Some of the older executives thought he was naive, too idealistic. But Catherine backed him up. This is exactly the kind of thinking we need, she told the board. Fresh perspective from someone who's lived both sides of it. 2 years after that freezing February night, Daniel stood in front of the Hartford Industries leadership team, presenting a proposal for a company-wide program to identify and develop talent from within their warehouse and operations staff. As he talked about creating pathways for dedicated workers to move into management roles, he could see William in the back of the room, smiling. After the presentation, which was approved, William pulled Daniel aside. You remember your promise? About carrying forward what you learned? Every day, Daniel said. Good. Because that night on the bench, I thought my best days were behind me. I thought I'd lost my purpose. But you gave me something back. You reminded me why any of this matters. And now you're spreading that forward. That's a legacy worth having. Daniel thought about how drastically his life had changed. Not just the job or the money or the opportunities, though those were incredible, but the way he saw the world now. He'd always known that helping others was important. His mom had taught him that. But now he had the power and resources to help on a bigger scale. He started a foundation, working nights and weekends on it. The focus was simple: helping caregivers and working families who were struggling with medical bills and education costs. He called it the Grace Torres Foundation, after his mom, who cried when he told her. The foundation started small, but it grew. They helped a single mother pay for nursing school. They covered medical expenses for a family whose insurance denied treatment. They provided scholarships to community college students working full-time jobs. Each person they helped, Daniel saw himself, saw where he'd been just a few years ago. One evening, 3 years after that first meeting, Daniel was at a foundation event when an elderly woman approached him. I want to thank you, she said. Your foundation helped my grandson. He was working 2 jobs and couldn't afford the technical school he wanted to attend. Now he's about to graduate as an electrician. You changed his life. Daniel felt emotion catch in his throat. I'm glad we could help. He asked me how he could pay you back. I told him he can't, not directly, but he can help someone else when he's able. Keep it going forward. After she left, Daniel stood there thinking about the chain of kindness. William helping him helping others, those others helping more people. It spread out like ripples in water, each act of kindness creating more. His mom walked up beside him. She was healthy now, active and happy. You okay, mijo? Yeah, Daniel said, putting his arm around her shoulders. Just thinking about how one night changed everything. You changed everything, she corrected. By being who you are, who you raised me to be, he said. They stood together watching the people at the event. Some were donors, some were volunteers, some were people the foundation had helped, all connected by the simple idea that people should help each other. Daniel's phone buzzed. A text from William. Proud of you, son. Come by for coffee soon. Daniel smiled and texted back. Will do. Thank you for everything. But he knew the truth. William had given him an opportunity, yes. Resources and support and belief. But the foundation of it all, The thing that had started the whole chain of events was just basic human decency, seeing someone who needed help and choosing not to walk away. His mom had taught him that. And now, through the foundation, through his work at Hartford Industries, through every interaction and every decision, Daniel was teaching it to others. Because at the end of the day, that's all any of us can do. See each other as people. Help when we can. Create opportunities for others the way others created opportunities for us. Pass it forward. Daniel looked around the room one more time at all these people connected by kindness and hope. Then he smiled and got back to work. There were more people to help, more opportunities to create, more kindness to spread. And it had all started on a freezing February night, when a young man decided that a stranger's life mattered more than his own comfort. Sometimes that's all it takes. One choice, one moment of compassion, one person deciding that we're all in this together, the rest follows from there.